I keep my goals to myself, cause whenever I share it with folks, they get a look upon their face and their memory floats to a time where their goals and the stars.
What's good? We're going to get into Monday Night Raw from August the 24th, 2026. This episode of Raw was actually okay. Seeing Royce Keys with a faction of his own is great. Didn't really expect that, and I'm kind of interested in seeing where this all goes. It's interesting to have Royce Keys be the leader of his own faction, and to actually even give him a faction is pretty cool. So I'm guessing all of this stuff is going to probably coincide and go all the way to War Games. It seems like that's where they're going with all of this. It's going to probably be the Bloodline, Solo, and LA Knight, and Royce Keys and his boys. And that should be kind of cool. Remember, this happened in NXT Black and Gold years ago when they did a Triple Threat War Games. It was the Authors of Pain, DIY, and I think it was Undisputed Era or something like that or whatever. I think that happened in I want to say 2017, 2018, something like that, I believe. Maybe even 2016, but I think it happened in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. But I could see Triple H going into that type of direction, heading into War Games, doing like a triple threat style aspect of War Games. And I think that makes sense. So I am kind of intrigued in this and see where all this goes. I also liked what they did with Bron Breakker and Oba Femi. I thought their contract signing was okay. And I also dug Rey Fenix versus Dragon Lee. That was fucking tremendous. That was great. So, overall, Raw was okay for the most part. I'm still wondering where Seth Rollins is. I've asked this for, the past three weeks. I've asked, where has Seth Rollins been? It seems like he'll show up eventually at some point. Maybe he shows up at Sunday night's main event, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he shows up sometime in September. I don't know. Maybe he's taking time off, but I can almost guarantee you that Seth Rollins is going to be involved in War Games some way, somehow. So, let's start the show a little bit differently. I want to talk about the Bron Breakker and Oba Femi contract signing first, and then from there we'll get into the remainder of the show. So, both guys are out there in the ring, Bron and Oba. Paul Heyman's there and everything else, and he puts over both guys and everything. So, they're sitting across each other from the table. So, Bron Breakker asked Oba, who in the hell does he think he is? And he wants to know, what has he done to earn the title of the quote-unquote future around here? He beat Brock Lesnar. He won King of the Ring, smashed a couple of people. Okay, those all sound great, but none of them sound like championships, do they? Bron says 8 months ago, Oba showed up. Bron Breakker had a WWE in the palm of his hands. The people chanted for him and barked in every town just like they cheered for Oba. But then he got hurt. He took himself out because, let's face it, no one else could. Oba weaseled himself into his spot and took his opportunities. Oba Femi was born on the top of the mountain he talks about, and he wouldn't be here if it weren't for Bron Breakker getting hurt. And he's here to claim what belongs to him. So Oba begins to chuckle and calls Bron an angry orange man, which is hilarious. He says, why is he so angry? Oba wants to explain something. He thinks Bron is so frustrated because he thinks Oba doesn't rate him. He doesn't think he's a challenge, but he'll say what he thinks. He says, if Bron had debuted in 2002 and ran against John Cena, he'd have been the face of the company, which is kind of true. If he had done the same thing in 2015, he would have been the face of the company as well back then, dealing with the big dog, aka Roman Reigns. But he said, but Brawny Boy is 26. I mean, it's 2026, and you have the unfortunate privilege of running against Oba Femi. And with Oba being around, the chances of Bron Breakker being the face of this company have gone way down. He's ran up a tree, and the dogs are barking. And at Sunday night's main event, he'll find out why he's the ruler, the destroyer, the bringer of war in the future of WWE. So Bron laughs this off. He thinks it's funny, and he loves it. He said they cheer for him, they strut with him. Everyone thinks he's going to roll over Bron like it's any other match, but he's going to force him to fight in the deep waters and take him out there. He's going to get tired. His lungs will run out of air. His legs will go, and he'll be a sorry wrestler who thought he could compete with a real dog like Bron Breakker. He cast a big shadow in this squared circle. Bron will own him, and he'll spend the rest of his career living in Bron's shadow. Because he's the ruler, he's the bringer of war, the guy of the future. Well, he's Bron Breakker, the guy that Oba Femi couldn't beat. And then he signs a contract. So then Pierce reaches the contract to Oba, but Bron yanks it out of his hand, and he puts it onto Paul Heyman's chest. He asks him, can he sign it, or will his daddy sign it for him, talking about Oba Femi. Paul Heyman tells him not to do this, and Bron Breakker says he's been walking around for the past 2 weeks like he represents Oba, and he doesn't want anything to do with him. He knows what's going on. He shoves Paul Heyman and cheap shots Oba. So Oba begins to fight back. Austin Theory shows up. Both Bron Breakker and Austin Theory get the upper hand only for a brief moment. Oba Femi fights back. He beats up both Bron Breakker and Austin Theory. He clotheslines Bron over the top rope. And then he puts Austin Theory through a table via the throw that he does. And then he gets on the mic. And Oba says, this is exactly how it'll be at Sunday night's main event. Bron's running away, and he'll run away from him. And then Oba signs the contract, and then he throws the contract at Bron Breakker, and that was the end of the segment. So this is fun. I actually do like this. This is decent. This needs to be a feud that lasts basically for the remainder of the year. So we have basically about 3.5 months left of the year, and there's no need for this to be a one-and-done match. But it seems like that's what they're going to end up doing, probably. Hopefully we can get 2 matches out of this, hopefully. But for me, man, this is something that you do at WrestleMania or at SummerSlam or something like that or whatever. Not on a random Sunday night's main event, but who gives a damn? But this is fun, I guess. So, there's that. All right, moving on from that, let's go to the beginning of the show. So we kick the show off with LA Knight. So he came out and he calls Roman Reigns a coward. He says that Roman's been ducking and dodging him for quite some time. He said that Roman continues to send his cousins after him. And they all have fallen in line except for one, that being Sikoa. So Solo shows up. He gets a good reaction, sending with LA Knight. Solo said 1 or 2 years ago, who would have thought that LA Knight would have been teaming up with Solo Dolo to take out the Bloodline? After everything they've been through, LA Knight could have said no, but he said yeah. So the Usos, they show up. Jey Uso and Big Jim, they show up. So basically the Usos put them on blast and everything else, saying that there's consequences for Solo that's coming. And so Jay says that he runs the play, and they're about to belly LA Knight and Solo and take both their heads back to the Tribal Chief. And then Solo basically challenges the Usos to a tag team match, and then that was kind of basically it. And they kind of jaw-jacked for a little bit. So that's fine there, I guess, whatever. Moving on, this leads us into the first match of the night. Stephanie Vacker defeats Roxanne Perez. This match has been going on forever. Feels like they've been feuding since NXT. Stephanie Vacker ended up hitting the Devil's Kiss in this match, and it's still over. I love that move. It's great. Becky Lynch showed up to kind of fight off Raquel and all them. And so Stephanie ends up hitting Roxanne Perez with the Angel's Wings, and that was it. So pretty good stuff there. There's that. That's fine. Moving on from that, this leads us into Rey Mysterio. So he's backstage with Rey Fenix. He's giving him a pep talk. Dominic Mysterio, he shows up along with JD McDonough, his sorry ass. So they show up to complain about his dad being mean and leaving him out of the tournament. Rey Mysterio says it's because he's not a luchador. And the Judgment Day stare at him and everything. So Javon Evans shows up and he takes them both out. Them being Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. Who gives a damn? Moving on. This leads us into the semifinals for the World Heavyweight Championship. Rey Fenix defeats Dragon Lee in a tremendous TV match. Kudos to both guys. Both guys went balls to the fucking walls in this match. The crowd, the Buffalo crowd, was super into this. Super into both guys. Dragon Lee did a phenomenal dive through the middle rope towards the end of the match. It was insane. It was like he was a missile, and he ran smack dab into Rey Fenix. It was fucking insane. It was insane, man. Like, the crowd really dug this match. So, Dragon Lee was able to hit both Destino and the Styles Clash in the match, and Rey kicked out of both, which is fine. Rey tried to hit the Mexican Muscle Buster earlier on in the middle part of the match or whatever, but to no avail. Then he was able to finally hit it, and then he won the match via the Mexican Muscle Buster. Very good stuff here. Loved it. The crowd was super into this. This was excellent. This really should have been the first match of the night, in my opinion. This was great. This was tremendous. Both guys did great. Both baby faces. And again, this was just great graps, man. Great. I'm a fan of both guys, and this is great. So this basically means that we are getting a brother versus brother final. Rey Fenix versus Penta. And that's going to be fun as fuck. So kudos to both guys. Moving on from that, this leads us into a video package for Lola Vice. So she's coming soon. So she'll be debuting on September 14th, basically, which is kind of weird. I don't know why you got to wait like 4 weeks to kind of debut her. Well, three weeks to kind of debut her. That's kind of weird if you ask me, but it is what it is. I mean, that's fine. That makes sense, I guess. So, if that's the case, then I'm guessing since they haven't turned Damian Priest heel on SmackDown, they're probably going to end up maybe just having him say the R-Truth on SmackDown on Friday. Maybe they'll have him say, look, man, this ain't working out. Let's just go our separate ways. I think that'll make the most sense. You know, you give Damian Priest, you put him on Raw with his girl and everything else, and I think that'll be fine, you know? If he does turn heel, he should go to Raw and be with his girl. So, you know, there's that. All right, moving on from that. This leads us into backstage segment. So the Usos, they're backstage with Jacob Fatu. So Jacob Fatu should have just stayed back here. So main event, Jey Uso calls him a chicken, and Jacob tells him that Roman Reigns told him to stand down last week, And that's just what he did. Roman calls the play, and he does it. So Jay holds up his black garland of captaincy and says that he can tell Jacob Fatu what to do, and he should stand around in the back and do nothing. So, okay, whatever, that's fine. Who cares about this? Moving on, Big Cass, he defeats Javon Evans. Not good. He wins via the big boots. Not good. And Corey Graves was quiet as a mouse with this shit, with this match, man. I'm like, damn. Again, years ago, Cass basically dated Carmella, Corey's now wife, and they got into some trouble or whatever. There was a little bit of argument and all that stuff, so maybe that hasn't been smoothed over with that, maybe, and that's probably why Corey probably hasn't really said much of anything about Big Cass coming back, so it is what it is. I think if it's going to be an issue, then you kind of should be able to move Corey Graves to SmackDown, and you basically put Wade Barrett in the course of Corey Graves, so that way nothing can escalate even further, right? Triple H is wrong as fuck for doing that shit, but it is what it is. He don't give a fuck. I mean, it's sad though. Moving on from that, the Judgment Day, they basically jump Javon post match basically. So I guess they're doing a little mini feud between Javon Evans and Dominic Mysterio. That's fine, I guess. Whatever. So Sol Ruka, she's backstage. She's interviewed by Kathy Kelly or whatever. No, Charlie Caruso. I'm sorry. So then EO shows up to congratulate her and give her a pep talk ahead of next week. So Lyra, she shows up. She's sweaty and wet, which is weird. She congratulates Sol Ruka and tells her that Raquel is going to mess her up, and she should just go ahead and give her the title match. And they can run it back. So Ruka says no, and Lyra says she wants another contenders match. So Ruka says no. If she wants another title match, she has to earn it. And Lyra says that's just how Bayley used to talk to her. And then she storms off. So whatever. And then Io Sky agrees that Lyra is scary, and Sol Ruka agrees. It's weird what they're doing with Lyra Valkyria again. They turned her heel and everything else, and they've done nothing with her. Bayley is just doing some stuff. She was recently at backstage at Lockdown for TNA over the weekend. So, there's that. Maybe this could lead to Bayley going to TNA for a little bit to kind of, I guess, help out the promotion, which is fine. I mean, that makes sense. She's not doing anything on the main roster anyway. But whatever, man. Whatever. Moving on from that. This leads us into the semifinals of the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament. Penta defeated La Parka. Match was okay. The crowd wasn't really into this as much as they were into Rey Fenix and Dragon Lee. So, Penta wins via the Mexican Destroyer. Post-match, his brother shows up. The two of them, they dap it up. They have a little moment together, and then that was it. Man, this match is going to fucking bang next week. Great stuff. Moving on from that, this leads us into LA Knight. He's backstage with Solo Sikoa. So Solo Sikoa thanks him for last week and says he has his back and he owes him. LA Knight says, calls him a softie and says he appreciates him, but the only thing that he owes him is to not make him regret this. They can go all the way to the top as a team, and we're not talking warning shots anymore. It's going to be live fire out there, so let's do some business. Okay, that's fine. Moving on from that, this leads us into Chad Gable. He was backstage. He was talking to Adam Pearce, saying that his match with Rey Mysterio last week was an all-timer, which it kind of was. Chad Gable says that's exactly what he's going for, and Adam Pearce tells him He has an idea for his next all-timer, and he'll talk to him later. So all ego shows up. Ethan Page, he shows up. He says that he also beat Rey Mysterio, and he deserves a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. But Chad Gable seems to be a little bit intimidated. He's going to offer washed-up Hall of Famers title matches because he's afraid of Ethan Page. Chad Gable finally manages to break through, and Ethan Page had the same chance at the title as him, and he was going to have all ego at the top of his list of contenders, but he opened his mouth, and garbage came out, and he called himself out. He talked himself out of the match. Okay, whatever, that's fine. Moving on from that, let's lead us into Stephanie Vacker. She's going to be backstage. She says once Liv Morgan showed her she needs her two pets to try and take her down, but that doesn't work with her. And she doesn't need Becky Lynch's help, but she thanks her and respects her. In 2 weeks, she'll be alone in that ring and take her title back, and she'll destroy Judgment Day in the process. Okay, that's fine, whatever. Main event of the evening was basically a no contest because towards the end of the match, Royce Keys and OTM, Bronco Nima and Lucian Price, they showed up, and they beat the shit out of the Usos and LA Knight and Sikoa. They laid the Usos to waste. Royce Keys and your boys, they put them through the announce table and everything else, which was great. I love that. Ended up doing a Irish curse through the announce table, which was insane. I'm sorry. A cross powerbomb through the table, which was great. I love that. Crucifix powerbomb through the table. That was great. I like this. They beat the shit out of both teams. This clearly sets up for War Games, which I'm down for, actually. And I'm interested in seeing where this goes. I really am. We should get an explanation next week from Royce Keys. And this is kind of justified. This actually does make sense. And again, this all sets up for War Games. It really does. So all in all, Raw, for the most part, was pretty okay. I actually enjoyed the main event, especially since we got a really good angle out of all of that. And I dug Rey Fenix and Dragon Lee. Kudos to both guys. They both went to fucking war. That was great. The women on the show, and it's fine, I guess. So it's there. They're doing stuff. Lola Vice coming in is fine too. Again, I expect for Damian Priest to kind of follow suit. Basically, probably will tell R-Truth, or he should tell R-Truth, hey, look, man, it's over. And he should kind of head to Raw. There's no need to turn him heel. I mean, you can turn him heel if you want to, but there's really no need to. I wouldn't turn him heel until he gets to Raw, basically. So, there's that. Again, Raw was okay for the most part. It gave us stuff to talk about. Still setting up stuff for Sunday night's main event. Also setting up stuff for War Games later on this year in November. So that is fine. Seth Rollins is still nowhere to be found. He has not been seen in like 3 weeks now. Maybe he'll show up at some point. But this is good. So I guess they're keeping Rollins, kind of having him lay low. But eventually he'll pop up at some point, I guess. But all in all, Raw was okay for the most part. But what did you guys think? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.